welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope your weekend has been going well. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of March 17th through the 24th, 2024. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click that bell button below if you want to be up to date with the latest astro videos on my channel. And thank you guys so much for all your support. We've had a really busy week. We got some eclipse videos out, so if you haven't already seen them, do check them out because we're coming into eclipse energies basically. So this is kind of a very busy week actually. There's quite a few things that are going on. So obviously the title of the video is Mars enters Pisces. We're definitely going to be talking about that ingress and why that's really important for really listening to our intuition in really navigating, where we're kind of going over the next couple of weeks throughout this transit. It kind of waxes and wanes with the energy, so we kind of have to roll with the waves of that. But for the most part, yeah, super busy week. We've got eclipse season that's going to be kind of coming in here, so you guys are going to be feeling the intensity as it's building up between now and the 25th when we have a lunar eclipse in Libra. We're also going to be seeing Mercury in Aries enter into its shadow period this week. So check your schedules, double check any travel plans, maybe take your car in to have it looked at, and back up your hard drives, because once Mercury enters shadow, we're probably going to start feeling some of the effects of that particular Mercury retrograde that will be taking place in April. And let me tell you guys, this one is going to be a doozy because it is factored into the eclipse as well. We will also be seeing the sun's ingress into Aries this week, so it is going to technically be kicking off the real astrological new year, World Astrology Day, and here in the Northern Hemisphere, we will be experiencing the first day of spring. We're going to feel like there's a little bit of a delay though, even though the energies are really going to start jump-starting April and May, because we're in eclipses and a retrograde at the beginning of April. We're going to be feeling how, we're just kind of still reassessing something a little bit before we kind of make a decision and move forward. I talk about this a lot in both of my eclipse videos and also in my extended intuitive readings. So if you guys wanted to check those out, they are actually on sale on my website for $14.99. I do another 2.5 hours doing intuitive messages for the 12 rising signs. No tarot, no astrology, just channeled messages for you guys. We've also got Mercury making contact with the North Node. So that's going to be really important. That kind of factors into the Mercury shadow. Mercury will actually enter into shadow as it conjuncts with the North Node at 15 degrees of Aries. So it almost kind of feels like destiny is calling. So the question is, are you going to pick up the phone? You're going to have that conversation and also really pay attention to how you are thinking. What ideas are coming up for you? Where do you want to take action? And this is about kind of learning to be a little bit more assertive, maybe a little bit more so brave. Now, as a part of the eclipse that we'll see, the lunar eclipse in Libra, there is a Saturn-Venus conjunction in the sign of Pisces that'll be setting up this week just prior to the particular lunar eclipse in Libra. This Venus-Saturn conjunction is incredibly karmic, especially because it's taking place in its exaltation, and Venus is connected to the South Node in Libra. So we might feel like there are chapters that are wrapping up in terms of karmic connections in relationships, what we're willing to sacrifice for those that we love. So there can be big storylines about commitment and kind of feeling like we're at a crossroads when it comes to our relationship to other people or other things. So we'll take a look at that conjunction as well. So like I said, there's just so much stuff going on this week. So just generally, the themes, the intensity will be building. So you guys are actually watching this on the 17th. If you're a part of the, Sunday crew, if you guys watch on Sunday mornings, between now and, next Monday, we're going to be feeling this kind of creep up as we're getting into the full moon. So it's likely that there are eclipse happenings already. I kind of took a stroll through some of the comments of the 2 eclipse videos that I did. Some people are saying like, this is already happening. I'm already feeling these things. Yes, eclipses, we start feeling them anywhere from like 4 to 8 weeks prior, and it can impact us for months, sometimes even a year later. So this first eclipse that we're going to have, the lunar eclipse in Libra, is from a seed that we planted in October of 2023. So you have to go back and look at mid-October. We had a solar eclipse at 21 degrees of Libra. This will be a lunar eclipse taking place at 5 degrees of Libra, kind of wrapping up that pattern or that particular intention that was set during that solar eclipse. And it's interesting because the solar eclipse that we're going to have in Aries just at the beginning of April, 19 degrees, so it will oppose that degree as well. So we're kind of seeing like both the first and the second decan getting hit within these two eclipses. So yeah, intensity is going to build. Obviously, something else that I noticed that's really interesting this week is that we have both the North Node ruler, which is Mars in Pisces, and the South Node ruler of Libra, Venus in Pisces. So it's interesting because Venus is very happy in Pisces, even though she's going to kind of dance with Saturn and Neptune for a little bit. We've got both the North Node and the South Node ruler in the same sign. So at least they're speaking the same language, even though they're not making contact per se. They're kind of speaking the same language. It's about kind of getting in touch with our intuition, kind of feeling our way into things. Yes, sometimes with Pisces, we feel like we're feeling our way through the dark. But a lot of the sign is about faith. It's about, being more so compassionate, sensitive, creative, artistic, spiritual. So at least we've got them kind of working together. And when we have planets come through Pisces, they will inevitably make a sextile to Jupiter, which makes things bigger. It helps us embody some of these changes. And also Uranus, which can feel like there is sudden opportunities for fluctuation, change, but maybe some quick lightning strikes of luck as well. So it's nice to kind of see some mutual reception that's going on between, Venus and Jupiter. Venus is in a Jupiterian sign, Jupiter is in a Venusian sign. So we can see some really big opportune moments throughout the next couple of days where there can be moments of luck, expansion when it comes to financial abundance, resources, healthier self-esteem. But when we peel back the physical layers of Venus being things or relationships or, consuming something, really, I think this is about becoming more comfortable and opening up to a new sense of values, a new faith practice, a new spiritual practice, a better relationship, with the earth, with the planet. So it can be really kind of magical for, just kind of getting into a routine to where we're really having faith and practicing something regularly like meditation or some kind of intuitive training that you're doing. Maybe you're going to be doing some like journeying work, or you're doing some ritual work or some offerings to really kind of connect to that earthy element. So lots of earth and water stuff is really kind of helpful throughout this next week. Anyway, love to see the North and South Node rulers working together because it tells me at least they're trying to kind of focus on the same, overcoming the same tasks. And they're all now 12th house once we get into Aries season to the sun. So this does kind of feel like this natural completion, this conclusion. This will be lasting until the second half of April when we see planets more so fully kind of move into Aries, like Mars, Venus, and the sun. And so, yeah, a little bit of like a delayed kind of like new year in the month of April. Now, communication speeding up. Part of that is because Mercury is in Aries. Now it is moving through the second decan, which has more connections to the sun. So it's about I create and I make and I have. And obviously Aries is a sign that's ruled by Mars. So to have Mercury going there, the mind is speeding up. As you guys are watching this, if you're watching this on Sunday and you know that you have some free time today, not a bad day to potentially start kind of getting your Mercury retrograde stuff in order. Look at what house Aries is in for you. That's where Mercury will be retrograding through. The shadow will start at 15 degrees, so it's going to literally be kicking in the next like 24-ish hours. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're in a Mercury retrograde. Mercury won't turn retrograde to the beginning of April. But this is a very, very, very active Mercury retrograde. And I have a hunch this is going to pack quite a punch in the pre-shadow period because Mercury will touch the North Node. So there is some kind of unexpected conversations that are brewing, right? It does deal with our own, goals and motivation and being a little bit more assertive. And then Mercury is going to touch on Chiron. So then there's going to be this sense of like, ooh, you know, am I being mean or am I being assertive? Or am I capable or I'm afraid to kind of speak up? So we're working through some issues revolving around, I think, executing our goals and going after what we want. We can be having a sense of like a little bit of self-doubt. And then as Mercury gets further into the shadow, it's going to be a part of the solar eclipse in Aries with a cazimi just days later. So working on a Mercury retrograde video for you guys. It's going to be coming out pretty soon. Don't worry. But basically, like, because there's so many damn aspects with this Mercury retrograde and an eclipse, I really recommend that you actually don't do everything and scramble to get everything done today. I actually don't think that's so smart with this Mercury retrograde. I would, however, say, well, you know, familiarize yourself, take a look at the house that Mercury will retrograde through, know what that house means, right? I believe I did talk about this in my monthlies, so I'm pretty sure I talk about Mercury going through the signs. If not, I've done a video on it already. But basically, yeah, like know where this is taking place. So you can look at it and go, all right, so there's going to be some reorganizing or, you know, some reworking or, you know, kind of backtracking in this area of my life. And I really feel like until we see the cazimi kind of come through, I think closer to the 11th of April, we need to see what new information or what new insights are coming up, you know, what these new, you know, revelations that we're having after the eclipse, which is really changing the direction of all of our destiny because the North Node is there as well. So I'm kind of going at this from the frame of mind that's like, I'm going to know where it's happening, but I'm not making any real serious decisions about one thing or another until actually closer to mid-April. So this is just one that you guys want to be mindful of. Mercury retrogrades, it does delay, you know, conversations or communications or contracts. We can see cars have issues. We can see, you know, computers or phones get fried. Obviously, this isn't a fire sign. So, you know, throughout this transit, Mars is actually going to be in Pisces. So it's possible that, you know, we see that we're having a difficult time in communicating and expressing ourselves because there is something that we're repressing. There is some agitation, frustration. Maybe we're kind of feeling collectively like there's some tension and some animosity in the world. And so it makes us feel a little frazzled. You know, Aries can deal very much with combativeness and conflict as well. And so I think for a lot of us, it's going to be us looking at, you know, is conflict sometimes necessary? Now, it doesn't mean it needs to be physically combative per se. And I think, you know, Mars in Pisces and Mars conjunct Saturn says, no, we don't need to actually have physical combat or conflict or war, but we do need to be mindful of the effects of what's going on out there and how it's affecting us and whether or not we're feeling powerless if we're giving up. So we're needing to kind of maybe rework or re-envision, you know, how we're kind of tackling some of our goals and learning to feel a little bit more confident kind of going after things. I have said this, I think, in one of my videos, but I'm going to say this now. I am not crazy about air travel during this Mercury retrograde because the retrograde will actually take place in the third decan, and it's going to be taking place in a decan that deals with Jupiter, which is airplanes. Chiron is there. We've got an eclipse there. Don't say this to be, you know, like fear-mongering, but I'm telling you guys, if you have heard anything of what's going on in the news recently with some of these reports about what's going on with Boeing and inspections in regards to commercial airlines and some of this weird stuff with, you know, the witness that turned up dead, I think we're going to hear more about some of those things coming up, or there may be some exposure relating to that particular situation. But I do think we're going to see some significant events in regards to like air travel and yeah, like literally issues in regards to that. So if you know that you're traveling, just, you know, double, triple check everything, show up early. If you decide you want to move stuff, you can. I'll talk about that more in a future video, but just some food for thought. We are also going to be seeing that energy levels are going to kind of wax and wane. So, you know, with Mars's ingress into Pisces, we're on a good day. We're feeling very divinely guided, very, you know, divinely, you know, walking the line of what we're supposed to be doing. I think of Pisces as being, you know, kind of in this meditative state. So with Mars being there, it's kind of like, okay, I just keep swimming, you know, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. but we can get distracted. You know, we can kind of burn out really easily. We can get tired. We could need more rest. And there can also be a sense of feeling like there are things kind of going on behind the scenes that we don't see. There can be, you know, microaggressions and things like that. Passive aggressiveness also, I think I see a lot of with like Mars, Neptune, or Mars in 12th house or Pisces energy. And so that can kind of be out there. And I think that we can kind of get hit by that. So I keep calling this like spiritual warfare, but quite literally Mars is the planet of war and Pisces is spirituality. And we've got the bad boys of Saturn and Neptune in this sign. So this is a time that you guys really want to have your spiritual defenses up, whether that means that you're putting on your, you know, your bubble before you leave the house. You grab your coat, your keys, your phone, and you set a little bit of an intention and you envision that you're putting yourself in that golden bubble before you get in your car or you get on the bike or you walk to work. I encourage you to work with water sprays. You know, Florida water is great. I love working with sea salt spray with a couple of shakes of essential oil, maybe a pinch of salt and some crystals in a spray bottle. You can make it yourself, pray over it. There you go. Spray your space down. You can kind of spray yourself down when you're kind of feeling like you're getting slimed. Baths, saunas, massages, all of these things because Venus wants pleasure, but we're not just doing it for pleasure. We're doing it because we recognize that in order to feel good, we're not just cleaning everything in a sense of physical. We're actually having to clean and cleanse and purify in a spiritual sense as well. And, you know, Mars going through Pisces or Mars 12th house stuff, I see people who have that they're calmed with vapor or haze or certain lighting or like dimmed lights. And so something that I like to recommend for these transits is like you can use incense, you can kind of put your light on dimmers, or you can set up certain lights in the bedroom that can kind of help you with winding down. Definitely be mindful of how much screen time you're getting as planets are coming in conjunction with Saturn. I think that there can be a sense of people actually, you know, kind of reverberating off of stuff that we're seeing out in the news and in the media. You guys helped me out with my comment the other day in my last video. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Predictive programming. Thank you guys. So there's going to be some stuff that you're going to see as Mars is getting closer to Saturn and Neptune that can kind of be like scary. And I would say like, it's just important to go, nope, cancel, delete, like not part of my reality. And then, you know, back to whatever you're working on. And then the other thing to be mindful of also is that, you know, Mars does deal with the North Node, and the North Node is still very close to Chiron, where Mercury will retrograde. So we're going to be hearing a lot of some news coming out about, oh, there's some concern for mental health or physical health, and the ruler is going to be in Pisces. You know, recently I was watching some stuff that was coming out where they were talking about in Colorado Springs in Denver that they've been doing some biochemical warfare, exercises, like nothing's going on, nothing's wrong, but they were doing these scenario exercises in hospitals, right? Pisces is hospitals. And that they were taking them through all of these like potential kind of scenarios. And in one of the scenarios, it was like, oh, the milk supply's been contaminated and like all these people are like drinking milk and they're getting sick. Like, what do we do? And they're literally training the hospital staff to go in and rush into a situation and be like, how do we deal with this, you know, situation with what people have consumed, this liquid? So I was like, that's kind of interesting, you know, and we've also heard other stuff that's come out, you know, in the news in recent months where there's been, you know, major headlines and, news stations saying like, oh, you know, we're going to see somebody that's going to hit utilities like power or water or whatever. Some of these things are kind of possible when you start to see Mars come into conjunction with Saturn. To some extent, you know, to me, this seems like these are kind of like, either like false flag events or things that are coming up that's meant to kind of startle people and shock people or keep them distracted from this up and coming Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is like, oh, we're having major issues with no longer being able to, you know, support some major banks. We're going to see that, you know, the money printer may potentially have to turn off for some, federal funds. We're also going to continue to see this pressure building in the banking systems. And so I've thought for some time, not just because I, you know, practice astrology, but I thought for some time with watching some of the patterns of what's going on, both leading up to the elections, but also this destabilization in the banking sector, that there may be some offer of being like, oh, here's the CBDC, or, you know, we're offering this payment, you know, whatever, if people get scared, right? And so I think we might start to see some of that stuff coming out, God forbid, you know, if there's any of these particular situations. But I do think that I would keep my eyes and ears open. I think that with Mercury coming into shadow, we're going to start to see the effects potentially of what this Mercury retrograde might be about. I assume that any news that's coming out, because Mars is the dispositor of Mercury, will be things coming directly from the private sectors, from some of these three-letter agencies, things that are coming out of hospitals, because this is all kind of Saturn, Neptune in the 12th house. And then we'll see what happens with the Mercury retrograde. So Venus will conjunct Saturn, like I said, serious commitments. Mercury conjunct the North Node, paying attention to significant conversations this week. Now Mars will be entering into Pisces. That's actually going to take place on the 22nd of the month, and Mars will stay in this sign until April the 30th. Then it will move into Aries in its home sign. So I'll put these dates in the description. I've been trying to be better about that for you guys, so that way you have that for those of you guys who are more visual. But because Mars is connected to Aries, Scorpio, rising signs, Mars is your chart rulers. This will affect you pretty significantly. You're going to feel the ingress of Mars changing signs, and also my Pisces risings. So from March 22nd through April 30th, we will see Mars move through this sign. And it's kind of an interesting placement because, you know, Mars's association with the get up and go energy of Aries, or the, you know, initiatory energy of Aries. And then also the feminine qualities of Scorpio, which is more about sex, war, passion, psychology, you know, temptation, like all of that stuff. You know, Mars is moving through a water sign, so it is more feminine, so it's less external, it's more internal. It's also moving through a mutable sign, which means basically things can kind of move about, you know, we can kind of see things wax and wane. When I was thinking about the title for this video, I was like, kind of reminds me of like when you hear Coast Guards or, you know, people who work on like ships say like, oh, we've got some choppy waters out there. You know, you see some rough water out on the ocean. Mars is about, you know, volatility, right? Unlike Uranus, which is erratic and electric, Mars is, you know, rising and swelling and clashes and these storms. And it's like when you see like those fishing boats that go out and they plunge and then they come back up and then they go, you know, underneath, really violent storms, Mars and Pisces. And so I think we may see some of that stuff throughout these particular transits over the next few weeks, especially as we start to see Mars get closer to Saturn as well as Neptune. We may see some really significant fog and cold fronts that might be coming in also in parts of the country. And yeah, I think we've already started seeing it. I saw we've had some extreme weather recently. We had that crazy tornado that just came up, I think, north of Texas. Storms are usually connected to mutable energies. So when we see a lot of stuff moving through Pisces or moving through Virgo or Gemini or Sag, we can kind of see some of that energy get kicked up. Obviously, in this part of the country, things are starting to kind of heat up. When we have that heat and lots of moisture in the skies, we're starting to see these storms that are kind of kicking around. So we might see more of that. You know, Mars in Pisces it's a unique blend of energy, and basically it's a transit that's going to be characterized by a combination of sensitivity, creativity, and determination. And it is a time of heightened intuition. It's a time of spiritual growth and a period of increased compassion and empathy. I think that's my favorite part of Mars in Pisces. There is this, you know, I am out there doing kind of like my spiritual warrior work. I'm out there fighting for people who, you know, don't have support, or encouraging those who are kind of feeling like they're exhausted or they're tired, or even like the underdogs. That Mars in Pisces energy is really great for that. Now, during this transit, it's going to encourage you to, really embrace your intuition, because the North Node is ruled by Mars and it's in the 12th house. It basically means that before you take any action, you need to strategize. You need to envision. You have to sit and look at the maps and the screens and the plans and kind of make preparations before you kind of initiate anything later this spring. So this is about trusting your instincts and your inner guidance during this transit, listening to your intuition, and let your actions and decisions guide you. I've heard this a lot recently, you know, from a number of people. I've heard a lot of people be like, I was thinking about going and doing this thing, and then I meditate on it, and then I was like, actually, I don't think that's a good idea. And then they kind of get the feedback about what happened with that event, and they're like, oh, I'm glad I didn't go, you know. And I had my family friend the other day, she was telling me, like, there's this thing that I really wanted to go to, and I just had a really bad feeling. And I used my pendulum and it told me not to go. And then, you know, like I found out what happened afterwards. We're going to see kind of this kick up a little bit. And obviously there's a fine line between, you know, being like psychic and crazy. I feel like a lot of us walk that line daily, but this is not to make you paranoid. This is to get you to stop and think and listen to your intuition or your emotions before you take action. You know, Pisces is a sign that's known for knowing when to do something. They have to feel like it's the right moment, even if it's like, you know, 3 in the morning before the essay is due, or in the middle of the day when, you know, creativity strikes, or when they feel like it's time to initiate something. I'm sure those of you guys who have like Pisces or Pisces rising, you guys know what I'm talking about. So we're going to have to kind of move with this. We're going to have to make decisions based off of what feels right and be embracing our intuition. This is also about practicing compassion. So, you know, it's important to use the increased sensitivity of this transit to be more compassionate and empathic towards others, but also towards yourself, right? North Node's in Aries. It's like, what about me? This is about, you know, strengthening our relationships and fostering a deeper understanding of those who are around us. So I think that there is this really kind of sweet energy about Pisces that's self-sacrificial, sometimes to, you know, a fault, so willing to give, to help, to heal, to take in, to donate, to just like be there, right? Pisces is like a sponge. So there's also this side that can be so empathic that you're kind of absorbing other people's issues. The pros of this is that we may be more in tune to what other people need and be more willing to kind of look beyond our selfish kind of needs, and be able to help others. I think that's the positive of this. And whether this is donating some time, some services, maybe it means that you're, you know, taking some resources or some food to a local food bank. Maybe it means that you're volunteering somewhere, or donating some clothes, or even some money to, you know, a foundation or something that's near and dear to your heart. We'll be more feeling like we're capable of giving with this transit. But once again, pay attention to where you're absorbing too much, because Mars is also about defending, right? Defending your honor, defending your space, standing up for yourself, being the first, rushing into a situation, you know, to help those who are in need. This is also about engaging in creative pursuits, because Pisces has this connection with the arts, cinematography, music, poetry, dance, design. So Mars here is a great time to explore your creative side and engaging in activities that allow you to express your creativity, such as painting, writing, or playing music. We may be feeling like we're connecting to something higher than ourselves. You know, Pisces represents these other kind of planes and these other, you know, worlds that we kind of connect to, where there can be angels and spirit guides and all kinds of other energies from other places. Pisces has connections to temples and churches and spiritual centers or retreat centers. So it can also indicate a time where, you know, we are feeling like we need a little bit of music to liberate the soul, or we need, you know, some really great ambiance or some art to be able to kind of feel like, you know, we're letting our creative juices flow. And I think that that's really important, especially because like also Mars is very much associated with Aries with the body. So I really feel like it'd be really wonderful for people to be doing like a regular meditation or yoga practice throughout this transit. Even if it's something that you just do for a few minutes when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed, this can definitely kind of help us get more in touch with our body. Because Aries is about the physical body. The feeling into your body, being in your skin is more Taurus. I think I've talked about this in previous videos, but this is something I've gotten super into recently, like doing a little bit more yoga in the mornings, and somatic workouts are like so awesome for kind of helping you feel more comfortable being in your body. So this might be a thing that people start kind of thinking about, or, maybe we're feeling like we're having to take a little bit more action in rearranging our bedrooms to make our bedrooms feel more comfortable, or prioritizing our sleep routine. That can be coming up here as well. Practicing self-care, I think that kind of falls under the realm of some of the things that I was mentioning, but obviously, paying attention to your emotional and spiritual needs during this transit is important, and engaging in activities that promote self-care. So outside of like meditation and yoga, this could be journaling. This could be making sure that you're, setting up an adequate sleep routine. It's pretty common when we're coming into eclipse seasons, especially as we get closer to the lunar eclipse. That full moon, I notice a lot of people have issues sleeping. And obviously a big topic right now because, today the sun conjuncts Neptune. So I think all of us are maybe feeling like we're a little out of it today. But as Mars comes into the 12th house and into Pisces, we might be feeling like we're having our sleep disturbed in some fashion. So, it's important to make sure that we're winding down and we've got like a nighttime routine that we're working with. And then finally, setting boundaries. So while this is a lot of energy that's about being compassionate and sensitive, it's also important to set boundaries and protect your own energy and be assertive when necessary, and not being afraid to say no when needed. And I'm going to double down on this because I think with Mars ruling the North Node, we have to be willing to kind of let go maybe of some people-pleasing tendencies, especially with Venus conjunct Saturn. We have to be willing to say, you know what, not my issue, not my problem, not getting involved. There are some things that are probably better left alone. And I think we're going to realize this throughout this eclipse season when we're really kind of closing, chapters. But as Mars gets closer to Saturn, and you'll see that as a part of the solar eclipse in Aries, by not having boundaries, by not listening to our intuition, by not being tapped in, by not saying no, or, this is not good for the soul, we are putting ourselves in a position of harm's way, right? Or we are maybe hurting ourselves through not having that sense of self-awareness. And we'll work through that, during the Mercury retrograde and the solar eclipse. So this is all about boundaries. This is about having your guard up more than usual, more than you ever would. And even if it seems crazy, or if you think that you're, doing too much in terms of having your guard up, no, you're not. And you're going to see as Mars moves through Pisces and hits Saturn and Neptune that if we don't exercise extreme caution and if we're not having better boundaries, then it can actually lead to us having some effects that can really affect us mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and also in our dreams. I mean, everybody really would do themselves a solid by, after listening to this video, go and get a handful of salt, put it in a small bowl somewhere, put it either in the corner of your bedroom or underneath your bed. Go and toss it, in about 2 weeks to a month. Get into the habit of maybe doing this every 2 weeks or so for the next few weeks, because this is where we dream. This is our subconscious. And I've heard everybody telling me, I'm having the craziest dreams and all these weird things are going on and there's all this stuff. Yeah, because we're kind of getting hit with all of the cosmic sludge that's kind of flying around in everybody's subconscious. And there's some stuff going on in the ethers that's going to become more visible as we're getting into Aries and Taurus season. So we can kind of catch and absorb all of that by having better, protection in our bed space, by saying our bedtime prayers, believe it or not, by calling on sacred space, maybe smudging on Sundays, whatever you want to do to protect your space. This is a really good time to be doing that. Now, like I said, the North Node is ruled by Mars. And so my interpretation is if the North Node is ruled by Mars and it's in Pisces, this is about behaving in a way that balances the assertive and self-driven energies of Aries with a much more compassionate nature. So this is about asserting ourselves to pursue our desires, because the North Node is in Aries, but also being sensitive to the needs and the feelings of other people. So we have to find that balance and that equilibrium. Obviously, the lunar eclipse in Libra pretty soon is bringing that up as well. I think this is also about being motivated to take action and pursue our goals, while also being sensitive to the impact of our actions on other people. So it's teaching us not to be like that North Node, Mercury and Aries, get out of my way, it's my time, or I'm so eyes on the prize that I have to get there, and I don't care who that affects or who that kind of tears down in the process, because that Aries energy can have blinders on. And I think what we're going to realize with the Mercury retrograde and also the conjunction to Chiron is like behaving that way doesn't really help other people. It hurts other people. This whole dog eat dog, it's a jungle out there, every man for themselves type of mentality is actually doing us a disservice on a personal level. And I think we're going to kind of realize that because we've had this perspective of, you know, do what you have to do to survive. You know, first one to the finish line wins. We're actually losing a lot of people. A lot of people are falling behind, and we're kind of losing touch with what it means to have community and to have, like networks with other people. So I encourage you to be mindful of, you know, leading in a thoughtful and considerate way, and to strive to balance your own needs with the needs of other people, and try to consider other people as you're kind of moving through these energies over this next week or two. Some notable dates that I will give you guys. I'm hoping to do a Mars in Pisces video. I'm kind of looking at my content schedule because I've got a lot this week, but one day that is going to be important is going to be, well, there's a few. I'll take you guys through this really quick. You're going to want to look at April 10th. And this is going to be when Mars conjuncts Saturn in Pisces. Okay. And that'll be at 14 degrees. And then on the 11th, we will see the 11th through the 28th, Mars is actually going to be in between Neptune and Saturn. So I don't know if I would quite call that besieged. I mean, technically, these are kind of two malefic planets, Neptune and Saturn, and Mars is a malefic in himself. But that's going to be an interesting period, the 11th through the 28th, because it almost feels like if there are any attacks, red flags, false flags, if there's any military mobilization, any kind of action, it's going to be extremely secretive. It's going to be like cloaked, basically. Okay, so we think of Mars as being like assassins and athletes and warriors and soldiers. So there's going to be some stuff going on where it's like if there's weird things going on in the world, we're not necessarily going to see it. We're not going to have eyes on, on the situation. I've talked in a previous video about how this is really about the ocean. This is going to be, I think, about Navy deployment. We're going to see ships and stuff all over the world. I know that we're coming into some exercises and stuff that are going to be done all across Europe. And Saturn does deal with governing structures or, military personnel, higher ranks, generals, things like that, government. And Neptune kind of deals with, things that are kind of incoming. So in previous cycles that I've seen with Mars-Neptune conjunctions, those have corresponded in recent years with significant upticks of COVID stuff. So whether you believe in COVID or not, that's neither here nor there. We have seen that there have been kind of peak periods after these Mars-Neptune conjunctions have taken place. So I'm wondering, okay, between the 11th and the 28th, what's brewing here? Because Mars is moving through no man's land, and we're like, what is happening? And then we're going to have on the 19th of the month, Mars will sextile Jupiter. So we get a little bit of help. It's still invisible, but when the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is happening on the 19th and the 20th of April, keep in mind Jupiter is the dispositor of all of this, Pisces. Mars is in a sextile. So whatever is breaking down, being cut, severing has a huge impact on the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Not a lot of people are really talking about this, but we've seen some sporadic internet outages that have happened. I think it was happening in Africa. We've had a few. I personally haven't experienced anything here in the States, but I'm kind of watching the situation with what's going on with these undersea cables, these internet cables, and these other connections that we have internationally to be able to have access. So I'm really looking at this being like, is there going to be some outages that are happening quite literally because of some storms? Are we going to be hearing that there's going to be problems at sea? Is there something that gets knocked out intentionally or unintentionally? that has a huge impact on our ability to move money, transact, obviously have the internet. You know, the internet goes down, doesn't sound like a crazy thing, but it does when we can't buy things, when we can't use ATMs, if we can't go to the store, when suddenly we can't transact, when there's issues with mobile banking. I think there's some correlation here, and that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting with some of these aspects in April. We'll see on the 28th, Mars conjuncts Neptune, and this will be at 28 degrees. So that's going to be at quite a degree. This is a degree that deals with home. So I'm wondering if there is going to be anything in connection because of Mars's connection to all of this energy in Aries and the retrograde. If there is some connection or correlation to limitations with water, some issues that maybe we're having with like utilities, if there is something brewing where we're hearing that there is some, you know, concern for something physically or within health issues. So I would watch for that as well, because Mars and Neptune are kind of getting into like the very last degrees of Pisces. And then Mars will enter into Aries on the 30th. So by the time we get Mars into Aries, we've already gone through Aries season. We've already gone through the eclipse. We've gone through the retrograde. And now we're kind of coming into Taurus season as all these planets are coming through and squaring off with Pluto. So that's going to be interesting just from the sole purpose of like what are these huge significant upgrades or changes with farming, agriculture, food, banking, resources. So yeah, basically like April is going to be one hell of a month, and you guys are getting more or less you guys are getting the preview of it now in this next week as Mercury begins to go into shadow. So that was the long and short of it. All right, so let me take you guys back to where we are now. So we're going to be talking about the 17th through the 24th. Just one final thought on all of this is, you know, like I said, Mars being the dispositor of Aries season, and we've got an invisible Mars. This basically means that some of the changes that are happening during this eclipse season, during this Mercury retrograde season, comes out of the blue, or suddenly we decide that we want to cut something out, or we want to let something go, or we want to release something. Mars is also moving through a sign that deals with mental health. Okay, so mental health, psychological health, anything involving substances. Sometimes because of Mars's connection and correlation with Scorpio, we can see issues with addiction. Obviously, Pisces can be drugs, it can be pharmaceuticals, it can be alcohol. And then Mercury's connection to health and habits going retrograde. I mean, I feel like it's just really time to be super, super aware of our coping mechanisms and like, you know, what we're doing to manage stress and how we're kind of blowing off stress and steam. And how we're learning to say, Mars, Saturn, and Pisces, no, I'm not going to reach for the bottle. No, I'm not going to be just like smoking some, you know, pot, or deciding that I'm going to just take some sleeping pills. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you guys what to do, but this is like prime time, basically, with some of the Chiron conjunctions, really to look yourself in the face and be like, I'm going to go at life cold turkey. It's super scary, but I'm like sobering up for this event. Like I'm finally kind of showing up and deciding to get super clear, come up with an action plan, no longer continue to oversleep or wallow or kind of stay in the past. And we're being, you know, offered an opportunity to kind of really, you know, step into like this next phase where we're feeling divinely directed, divinely protected, right? Mars can be the shield in a way. And especially as Mars and Saturn come into conjunction, we can be shielded if we are being serious, being sober, having some sense of form, responsibility, and practicing moderation. So that's going to be the key this month. All right, so let's start with the week ahead. We're going to start with today, Sunday. So happy Sunday, guys. And if you stay tuned till the end, I'll take you guys through Mars and Pisces through the 12 signs. We'll take a look at what that looks like for you. All right, so the 17th, we're waking up this morning and the moon will be ingressing into Cancer. So depending on what time you guys get up in the AM, the moon will be moving from Gemini into Cancer, where it's in its home sign. So as it's moving through Cancer, it's going to start picking up some trines to Venus, okay, throughout the day. So that's kind of nice. When the moon's in Cancer, we're at home, we're kind of resting, recuperating, you know, we're just kind of taking it easy. Obviously, we're coming to the tail end of Pisces season. Obviously, those of you guys who are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, I don't remember which day it is. Is it the 17th or the 18th? One of the 2 days. But we're gonna have this moon making a trine to Venus. So it feels kind of, you know, warm, loving, comfy, fuzzy, that kind of stuff. The moon will continue to keep moving through Cancer all day. You're not going to see much kind of go on there. And we will see the Sun and Neptune conjunction. That's the other big thing that's taking place today. So are you guys feeling it? Did you sleep in a little bit? Are you guys finally kind of caught up from daylight savings? Certainly, you know, when the Sun meets Neptune, there is a blurring or softening effect. We become more sensitive, sentimental. We retreat a little bit more. We sometimes need a little bit more rest, or we need to kind of zen out. At 27 degrees, this can definitely be about mental. It can be about spiritual. It can be about psychological. I will tell you, those of you guys who are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, if that's something that you're doing, because the Sun and Neptune are meeting at a 27, not a day that you want to be drinking and driving. Also, drinking in general with this moon that's going to trine Saturn, you're going to see a lot of like really emotional people, you know, out this evening. So just be mindful. People shouldn't be drinking and driving anyway, but with the Sun conjunct Neptune in a Gemini degree, there can be visibility issues or people who are literally falling asleep or people who are having a difficult time staying awake. So just be mindful if you're out and you're kind of celebrating, okay? On the flip side, you know, the dispositor of this is Jupiter. So it can be a time where people are eating and drinking and being merry, right? And there can be an overindulgence in these things, overspending on these things. Certainly Jupiter in Taurus is very rich. And I really like this day for like a day to take time to pause and reflect, to do some like intuitive journaling, to be listening to music, spending time in water, by water, whether that's, you know, using a sauna, soaking in a tub, maybe going for a swim. If you're in, you know, parts of the world where it's warm enough to do that, this is a wonderful day because, you know, water really kind of lubricates the process of us feeling kind of connected. So do take a little bit of time out today to do a little bit of like conscious work. Now you're going to see in the next 24 hours, Mercury will come into conjunction with the North Node. We will then be starting the Mercury shadow. So if you know that you have a tendency to kind of get hit hard by Mercury retrogrades, if you're an Aries or a Gemini or a Virgo rising, you guys are the ones that are going to be affected by this the most. Go and back up your computer, plug in your phone, connect to the iCloud, you know, do whatever you have to do to just make sure that all of your, you know, Mercury retrograde stuff is kind of ready. So that way you can kind of pay attention to what happens the rest of the week and you can take note if you have to make some changes. All right, so we're going to keep moving through now. We're going to take this into Monday the 18th. And when we wake up on Monday, the moon is still in Cancer in its home sign, coming out of a trine with Saturn, and it's going to be building into a trine with Neptune and the Sun over the next day or so. This is where we're also going to see the Mercury North Node conjunction, also at a Gemini degree. There's been a lot of Gemini degrees that have been kind of coming up, What is Gemini? Two sides of a coin, a conversation, a phone call, an email, something we talk about, something we learn in transit, you know, dealing with siblings or, you know, cousins or neighbors. And I do feel like this is a lot about, you know, people picking up on something. The North Node is strange and unusual. It's generally kind of like a Saturn energy. It requires us to have to work. And if you notice, Mars has not gone into Pisces yet. It's in Aquarius. So it's moving through a sign that's about the people. It's moving through a sign that's about unity, coming together, social movement, sharing online, some kind of movement. There's been all kinds of talk about some of this TikTok stuff, right? I think that's been a lot of the Mars in Aquarius, you know, square Jupiter and Uranus. People saying like everybody's got some opinion about the TikTok stuff. We're certainly seeing it kind of go through Congress. Rush through within a week. Suddenly Congress has a bill for basically wanting to like break down the monopoly on TikTok. claiming that, you know, they should not potentially have the ability to have so much control, laying the groundwork for in the future, the president being able to make a determination as to whether or not a social media company is safe for us to be participating in. So whichever side of the coin you're on that does not matter to me. I'm not here to debate that. But because Mars talks about these social movements or social media movements, the squares to Jupiter and Uranus is bringing up, well, the impact it has on the masses, well, you know, the kind of information they're getting, how does it impact them, and what they're sharing, or maybe even, you know, the money kind of connected to TikTok. So I think that's a pretty accurate representation with the astrology. Now, with Mercury conjunct the North Node ruled by Mars, I think this is a day where we're kind of feeling on Monday that we're feeling inclined to give our opinion, you know, and like, opinions are like, you know what, everybody has one, okay? But Mars is the ruler of the North Node. So I think something about this Mercury North Node conjunction where we're kind of waking up to, I should say something, I should write something, you know, I should get up earlier, I should organize this, I should do this thing. We're picking up on that. We may be feeling inclined to find a group or a friend or, you know, a partner or somebody who can be like an accountability buddy to help us make some kind of change together, right? To help us kind of grow. So Mercury on the North Node, watch for those synchronistic messages, especially when Mercury comes into shadow. He's super tricky. You'll see the license plates. You'll see the numbers that'll kind of repeat on the microwave or on the calendar or like whatever. Like you'll see all those synchronicities. Every time you look at the clock, like that's going to start happening. And I also feel like with the conjunction to the North Node, it's about us being like, oh, are we getting the message, right? So it's like all of you guys who are my angel number people, I know that you guys are always doing this. You're always on the grind with your numbers. But those of you who are not as aware of those things, just take note, right? If you look up and you're seeing the same time, like 2 or 3 times in a row in a week, go and look those numbers up. If you are having the same intuitive message coming up for you over and over and over, write it down, like do something with it, because likely there's some kind of message that's kind of coming through today. And I think it's going to be really important for us to answer the call. Now, we will also see, like I said, with this ingress, Mercury enters shadow, so we can start feeling the effects of it now. The other thing that we're going to be noticing also is that as the moon continues to go through Cancer, it's going to start sextiling Jupiter and Uranus. So the more that we're in tune to our emotions, the more that we can make shifts, and also we can kind of get into alignment with letting some things go, right? We're coming to the very end of Pisces season. So we are in the Ides of March. And as the day goes on Monday, we start to see that moon come into a trine with the sun and Neptune overnight. In the PM hours leading into Tuesday, we wake up in the morning and that moon is still in Cancer, trining the sun at 29 degrees in the final moments, and also trining Neptune. So Tuesday morning feels kind of vibey to me. This feels like we may be waking up after having some very significant or prominent dreams. Some kind of an emotional healing perhaps is taking place as well. Other than that, we're not seeing too much going on Tuesday. However, when the moon changes signs, and now every time the moon goes into Leo, the moon is going to face an opposition to Pluto, okay? So when the moon goes through Leo, we're looking at the sun, what's going on with the sun. So in the PM hours, the early PM hours, we'll see the moon-Pluto opposition. Things get a little tense. They feel a little critical. When the moon's in Leo, we want to create, dance, play, share. We want to express ourselves. But the problem is the opposition to Pluto means we feel like we don't have the platform, we don't have the support, we don't have the people. We're feeling like a little emotionally threatened. And I'm looking at this 29-degree sun where the moon is kind of indicating, oh, there is some kind of dramatic shift that's about to happen. We're coming out of Pisces season, which is the end of this last kind of solar year. Now we're coming into what's going to be the new year as the sun moves into its exaltation in Aries. And we have the very first day of the astrological new year. So a little bit of pressure on the 19th. Feels like a little bit of drama that we're like, oh, we got to let this thing go, or this thing is kind of cropping up. And we will actually see the sun's ingress into Aries. This will be in the evening hours on March 19th. So that will be technically, World Astrology Day. This is going to be the moment of the spring equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere. So I know you guys in the Southern Hemisphere, you guys are kind of going into fall, but still, regardless, it doesn't matter. These are very potent points because the 0 degrees of the cardinal signs are the angular points that are known as the world axis points. This is about, initiations of new things. So we've been giving way during Pisces season, coming into Aries where we start something new. And we will see that this is kind of setting the stage for the next year, right? So we could look at this chart and go, okay, this is going to tell us a lot about the next year. Exalted sun, wonderful. Sun trine moon, wonderful. Exalted Venus, great. Conjunct Saturn, karmic, but also clearing things out. The moon is the public, so the moon's in opposition to Pluto means that we do kind of feel like there is a bit of intensity in this next year. Intensity revolving around children, creativity, lovers, creative projects, right? And obviously, Aquarius is seen as, groups of people. This is people who have these roundtable discussions. These are panels, these are Congress and all kinds of people who are meeting to make decisions about legislation and bills and leadership because it's ruled by Saturn. And then the moon is in Leo, which is very dramatic, very creative, very warm, very loving, but this is about the individual. So what does this say for, spring of 2024 into spring of 2025? That we feel emotionally threatened on an individual level because of those who are in power. And that we're taking it upon ourselves to reimagine and rethink what it means to be independent, where we can be more self-sufficient. And we're kind of getting creative with the process. It's 2024. If you don't already have a side hustle or your own side business, it's time to get to it because I think that truly may be the way forward for a lot of people to kind of reclaim their independence. And a lot of people are going to be seeing that it's worth actually, getting the grind on to not just collect a paycheck, to literally create your own future, to create your own wealth. So this is quite an intense chart in my mind for the next year. I've talked about it a little bit, but you guys can look at this for a second. Something else that we're going to be noticing also this year is that, Mercury is going to be smack dab between the North Node and Chiron. So we're all going to be feeling like, ooh, do I speak out? Do I say something? Am I going to get canceled? I keep telling myself, stop caring what other people think. Being okay with not being liked and genuinely being okay with not being liked. And I'm not saying that to do that to agitate people, but it's to remind myself that's just really the only way to be happy is just to kind of be honest and to be, communicating in a way that's best for me, even if that means that it's a little bit more assertive or a little bit more, kind of between the eyes, right? Aries. Than maybe a lot of other astrologers, but I feel like that's really the only way to practice. I don't think there's any other way to practice because if you're just telling people that everything is just going to be light and love and butterflies all of the time, I think a lot of people are going to kind of get disillusioned with this idea of spirituality, that it's just a kind of a end all be all, fix your problems and everything's okay. And that's not really how life works. A lot of times the difficult challenges that kind of come up in life are what kind of prep and prime us for being able to heal something or kind of overcome something and move to that next level. And so I think that's a lot of what's really kind of going on during this period. Anyway, we're getting into now the 20th. So I'll take you guys now into Wednesday. And we're going to continue to see that moon move through Leo. As it's moving through Leo, it's going to begin to start trining the North Node and also Chiron and Mercury. Before it does that, it's got to square Jupiter and Uranus. So on the 20th, this is a day to watch the stock market because Leo is the stock market. It's about anything that's, creative or taking chances or risks or gambles. But that Sun trine Aries does make me feel like there are some things that are happening. And also with the moon square Jupiter and Uranus, it can kind of indicate that this is a big turning point for the financial markets, especially as we're watching Venus come into conjunction with Saturn. And the moon will keep moving through Leo. It looks like it will pick up that square to Jupiter in the PM hours and a trine to the North Node. So you want to be watching the conversations that are going on on Wednesday night. Okay, on Wednesday night. And this is where we're also going to see on Wednesday night, when the moon is trining, Chiron and Mercury come into conjunction. Okay, and this conjunction's at 18 degrees. Right? So what is Mercury? Mind, communication, business, travel. Chiron is the wounded healer. This is all ruled by Mars, which is coming into a critical degree, and it's 18 degrees. So I'm going to read to you what Nicola says about 18 degrees. And I know a lot of you guys have heard a lot of stuff about it. It can be a tricky degree. All right, where is it? There we go. Okay, so 6 and 18 are Virgo degrees. Okay, so even though it's Aries, so it's very kind of feisty and spicy and quick moving. 18 degrees is about to work, at a workplace, colleagues, from work, co-workers, workplace, workshops, location of a workplace, working conditions, from work, at work, be hardworking, interested only in one's work. To those who work for us or our employees, health, illness, health center, general practitioners, everything associated with health, macrobiotic, health food stores, the one who cures, medical care booklet, prescriptions, macrobiotics, healthy way of life, service industry, customers, clients, those who request services, a subtenant's status, renting to be a subtenant, vet science, veterinarians, domestic animals, pets, to analyze and assess chess. Step parents, clothes, aunts, uncles, stomachs, teas, honey, beehives, and ants. Okay? So what is Aries? You know, it's military, it's men, it's young boys, it's masculinity, it's about athleticism, athletes. I think that the Mercury-Chiron conjunction, I'm anticipating we're going to be hearing more about athletes that are going to be challenging, you know, some of the recent kind of things that have been going on with, you know, competition and things revolving around people's genders. I'll just leave it at that. I think we're going to hear more about that. I also believe, because this is a degree that deals very specifically with health, that we're going to start realizing that some of the numbers that we've been hearing in the job reports are not exactly what we thought they were, that there's a lot more people who are actually taking on second and third jobs. There's a lot less jobs that are being created for Americans, that we're actually hearing more about layoffs. We're also hearing all kinds of things where people are, you know, being moved, you know, or switched around in terms of their employment status. Like moving from, you know, being a employee to being a 1099, or being a 1099 to being an employee, like a W-2, you know, type of employee. We're going to be hearing more about that stuff because Mercury will go retrograde through this degree, so it'll kind of move stuff around. I also think that we're just going to be hearing a lot of people that are going to be talking about, you know, how difficult it is to find jobs, and that people are getting stressed because they're trying to find jobs. Certainly, you know, jobs play a huge role in kind of showing the health of the economy. So if you're somebody who's been trying to find a job or trying to find work or anything, I'd love to hear some feedback on your guys' thoughts, just to get an idea of what's going on out there outside of what I've been hearing. But just almost seems like a lot of the numbers are heavily inflated. They almost seem like they're like worse and worse every time you really break down the numbers and you kind of look at them. That's just my kind of thought process. But basically, Mercury is the mind and Chiron is where it hurts, right? And so I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be talking about, okay, well, it hurts to talk about this thing, or I'm trying to discuss my feelings, or I'm trying to kind of heal a wound in some way. And it can also be stuff relating, believe it or not, to inflammation, allergies, stuff of that nature. It's interesting, this talks about honey and bees and like stomach related matters. So much of Mars going into Pisces might be things that we're kind of mixing into, like hot tea. I have crazy allergies. It started when I left LA, and then I moved to Vegas for a couple of years and they were bad. And I came to Texas and I noticed with the constant changing weather, I'm like, I got to do something, and trying to almost get off of allergy medication. And so I've been like trying to take honey every day. And I'm wondering if that has any kind of connection with like the retrograde, if that's going to be something that's going to help my allergies. We'll see, maybe. But we'll have to kind of unpack this as the shadow begins. I think we're going to start to see what news is coming up. Is it health-related stuff in the world where information is breaking that we're now becoming more aware of? Is it related to some kind of military mobilization? You know, are we talking more about the health of veterans and whether or not, you know, they need more assistance? Obviously, we know they do. But these are the topics that I'm assuming we're going to be hearing about. All right, so then, actually, you know what? Let's read that Sabian symbol. What is that Sabian symbol? So Chiron will be at 18 with Mercury. So it's going to be at 19, which is, by the way, the same degree as the solar eclipse in Aries, guys. So that 18, 19 degrees is just really, it's really loud. Okay, so we'll read 19 degrees for this because we got to round up. 19 degrees, the magic carpet. The keyword is panorama. Theme is, but I can dream, can I? The symbol speaks to the magic of fantasy and that marvelous capacity of man to fulfill his dreams and an imagination and enjoy playing various roles in the assumption of any responsibility, without the assumption of any responsibility. The image of a magic carpet symbolizes freedom, optimism, aspiration. It also suggests a broad perspective and the ability to see experience in the context of the whole which it occurs. The rising above aspect, the symbol points to the detachment and the ability to vicariously enjoy experience without becoming personally involved. On a practical level, the symbol can indicate attempts to alleviate stress or simply wish fulfillment. Was when a prisoner dreams of being with a loved one, a child imagines he's the president of the country, or an office worker fantasizes about lying on a warm, sunny beach. At its highest, it represents a vision for creativity, gift, and the world in terms of possibilities and endless opportunities. Watch for escapism and emotional detachment. The accent is on imagination and enjoyment. Your creative energies are flowing. You may find yourself daydreaming and fantasizing more than usual or wanting to get away from it all. Your detached, carefree attitude helps you see things from a higher point of view. Opportunities and possibilities that were once unrecognizable when you were too close to the picture or too personally involved can now be seen. Your greatest advantage lies in your ability to visualize and hold a clear image in your mind of what you want to accomplish, Mars and Pisces. Use your imagination, aim for the sky, and expect success. Anything that can be dreamed can be achieved. Wishes do come true. Guard against focusing on limitations, problems, and obstacles. This is the conjunction of Chiron. Telling yourself there's no way to reach your goal or no way out of a situation is going to guarantee failure. Running away isn't the answer. Ooh, feel seen. Stepping stones, vision, broad perspective, possibilities, fantasy, wish fulfillment, magic, freedom, enjoyment, optimism, and aspiration. If you dream it, they will come. But really, it's where we're, I think, all getting stuck and we're not taking the first steps forward because we're like, it's a pipe dream, you know? I said in my intuitive messages for you guys, I talk about the 2 separate eclipses, and I was like, you know, the world needs more doers, not dreamers. We need more people who are innovators. We need more people who are willing to kind of roll up their sleeves and like get down to business and actually make things happen. It's wonderful to dream, come up with a plan, actually do something, execute it. And for many of us, I think it's about getting out of our own way. So it's possible that this is a day where we're kind of like, I'd really love to do this thing, but I don't know how it's possible. And we want to kind of take note of like where our ideas and our voice kind of starts to trail off, because we're like, nope, that's kind of like where the doubt creeps in, you know, where we're going to have to kind of catch it. So I think that's going to be a very telling day, especially as we're seeing Venus come into conjunction with Saturn. Man, there's a lot going on this week. There's little subtle, like kind of like nuances of stuff, but it's a very busy week. All right, so then we're going to keep seeing the moon move through Leo. It looks like it's going to pick up a trine in the early morning of Thursday. Okay, so you may not feel like you're ready to communicate or talk about it until Thursday. Thursday is not necessarily a bad day for that, because as we're waking up in the morning, that moon in Leo has come out of the square with Jupiter. It's still kind of squaring Uranus, so be mindful that you can feel like a little bit of pressure. There can be some changing circumstances Thursday morning. But for the most part, that moon trine, the North Node, Chiron, and Mercury, we're able to express ourselves, create, come up with an idea, share, be active. Fire trines, they need to move around. You know, they're kind of buzzing. So I like Thursday for a kind of reacclimating, integration type of day, you know, wanting to spend the day creating, sharing with other people, expressing ourselves. And guess what? Not everybody's going to like what you put out there. Surprise, you know, especially with that moon in opposition to Mars, you're going to have some people that are going to kind of just, you know, be those keyboard warriors. And the square to Uranus, we've got a kind of a grand fixed T-square here. So Uranus is the square to Mars and also the moon, which means change is the name of the game. Some financial stuff can be going on that day as well. We can see some swings. And it looks like that moon is going to keep going through Aries. And it'll be there until the later part of the day. So I'll kind of pick that up in a second. Now, something else you're going to see is that the sun in Aries is sextiling Pluto. So through a complete change, transformation of our goals, our friendships, our networks, our connections, we're feeling more empowered, more capable, more action-oriented. I kind of like Thursday. Thursday's probably my favorite day from what I can see so far. Okay, so we've got that. Moon keeps going through Leo. It looks like it's going to pick up coming into Virgo in the late PM hours. And when that happens, right before the moon's ingress, late Thursday night, the moon will oppose Mars at 29 degrees. Guys, when things hit 29 degrees, stuff happens. So Thursday night does feel like a night that can be extremely passionate, but it can also kind of rub you the wrong way. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting with 29 on both sides. What else do we have going on here? And Venus conjunct Saturn, obviously at 12 degrees of Pisces. Exalted Venus, Venus at a 12, super romantic, passionate, emotional, sensitive, spiritual. It just kind of like melts, you know, it's like two people melting into each other. Great for, you know, relationship harmony. But then I see Saturn, where Saturn is kind of like the end of the road. You know, it kind of represents a limitation of sorts. It's, you know, do we commit and move forward and go to the next level, or do we kind of dissolve this and go our separate ways? Sensitivity, sadness, reminiscing, loss, letting go. That, yeah, sure, we can see some of those things, especially because of Venus's connection to the South Node. And definitely, you know, we've got some double Pisces energy here because we've got Venus in Pisces plus Venus at 12 degrees, which is a Pisces degree. So it looks like when we're dealing with Pisces degrees, here we go. It's about disappearances, something that disappears, okay? So Venus can be women, it could be money, it could be food, it could be resources, because Venus is the dispositor of Jupiter and Uranus, okay? Food disappears, something is disappearing, relationships, security, secretly or mysteriously, keeping a secret, unexplored, unknown. Fears, phobias, psyche, psychiatry, psychiatrists, mental institutions, mental diseases, things that are invisible, to be invisible, something that's hard to find, diseases, hospitals, doctors, medications, pharmacies, chemists, isolated places, outskirts of town, the vicinity of hospitals, prisons, or mental institutions, monasteries, sanctuaries of religious divine nature, divine icon, heavenly God, contact with God, hotels, management, things at night to fall asleep, bed, a bedroom, an error, abysses, oil, gas, gasoline, drugs, drug dealers, drug addicts, photography, camera, false, insincere, counterfeit, forge, false representation, vague, obscure, research, laboratory, science, doctorate, degrees, sea, fishermen, fishnets, seaside, places, islands, drowning, poison, to take poison to poison someone, godfather, godparents, to flight or run away. So that connection to the South Node and then the Jupiter-Uranus, I wonder if this is about, like, you know, some other banking crisis and being like, okay, something is breaking down, something is beginning to kind of like split again or dissolve. So much of Saturn in Pisces has been the illusion that everything is solid, you know, that we have good leadership and, you know, solid banking and like this, that, and the other. Recently, I will say, I just had to go to the bank out of the blue, which is very rare. But I went and I was noticing that all the plaques were saying, they were all new. They were putting them out there when I was there. It said, you know, FDIC is now, you know, insured $250,000. And like they made a point of like letting people know like the money is safe, you know? And I was like, I don't know if that's a good sign. I don't know if that's a good sign. But I wonder with that Venus Saturn is like the backing, the security, you know, of some of this stuff and whether or not it's going to be secure in the off chance that we do see kind of more pressure in the banking institutions. I feel like because the mutual reception between Jupiter and also Venus, this could also be more of that like breakdown stuff of what's going on with like the social media, like the TikTok stuff of other people wanting to buy things or wanting to get involved with social media companies. But also a big day, a big turning point for relationships. So for what it's worth. Let's see, what's the Sabian symbol for this? So this is 13 degrees of Pisces. So 14 degrees of Pisces, 13 degrees of Pisces. A sword in a museum. Keyword is example. The power of precedent. The symbol speaks to the far-reaching effect of the lives and the deeds of historic figures of the past. The image of the sword in a museum emphasizes courage, honor, and willpower, but the sword here is also a weapon laid to rest, as it can symbolize prior hostilities, bitterness, and conflict. At every critical turn, the events recorded in history, someone or more individuals rise to glory and shape the destiny of the race, and down through the years, their courage and achievements continue to influence the thinking and decisions of new leaders in similar situations. At its highest, the symbol represents personal power, decisiveness, the ability to inspire others by living collective ideas in patriarchy, in practical everyday ways. Negative, gross exaggeration of the difficulty and magnitude of achievements. The accent is on influence of the past. You may find yourself trying to discover how immediate predicaments were successfully resolved in similar situations. Ooh. Your greatest advantage lies in following precedent or tradition. Do your research. Look at the background of history or the immediate situation. Guard against making mountains out of molehills. Don't blow things out of proportion and exaggerate the magnitude of the problem. Prior achievements, battle won, archetype, paragon, representation, example, idea, hero, peace, courage, honor, bravery, decisiveness. I think about a few things. I think about one, I've just heard so many people bitching and complaining about taxes, which is understandable because we've got taxes that are kind of funding a lot of things that has nothing to do with our country, and our country's infrastructure is crumbling. One is I think about, not a lot of people realize like the beginning process of the conflict that we had with Britain, with what eventually I think started leading to us deciding to become a sovereign nation, was, you know, taxation without representation. The Tea Party situation that happened, the tax that was basically put on tea, the 3% tax, and people went nuts. Now we've got crazy taxes. You know, people aren't getting the support that they used to. We're certainly not getting representation if some of these decisions are being made for our tax dollars to go out of the country, but nobody's doing anything. And so I think about like, oh, this could be about like, well, what's happened in the past? And like, when did people kind of like rise up and do something when we had, I would say, not even very similar, maybe 3% tax back then was a big deal, but like when we're looking at some of the tax numbers now, it's just like outrageous. So I think about that. I wonder if this is going to be about something missing. Like I think of Venus being connected to jewels and the connection to Taurus, and something revolving around like family jewels. And I started thinking about crown jewels, and like obviously everybody's asking like, where is Kate? What's going on with Kate in the royal palace? And I wonder, is this going to be more revolving around her being missing? You know, it's very possible. Yeah, this conjunction is happening in her 8th house if you've looked at her chart. And then 2, I think about how this can be really talking about how there is a removal or dissolving or, you know, taking down of some of these historical monuments, statues, structures, sculptures, like things that we have out that talks about historical, you know, art. literally Saturn, Venus, historical art, things that are really old and beautiful and traditional, and things that, you know, maybe we're feeling like we don't want out there, so people can kind of learn about their history or feel a certain way about it. I also wonder if this is going to deal, you know, more with, you know, past history of what's happened with banking, you know, situations. Like there have been times when we saw the Depression that people were not able to get, not only were not able to get their money out of the bank, but when the banks went belly up, you got nothing. You know, people were living on the streets, you know, basically lucky if they could find food. I also think about when, you know, we had the previous situations in the past where it's like, you know, the United States basically had to, you know, citizens had to turn over their gold. It became illegal to physically hold or possess gold. And granted, they were issued an exchange. You got the current exchange rate. All these Americans, you know, exchanged their gold. And then suddenly, I think it was, I believe it was Roosevelt? I could be wrong, but the president's like, yeah, you know, over breakfast, like now it's worth $30, you know, an ounce. And it's like, what? So suddenly they just decide to increase the value once they had to turn over their resources and then deem it more, you know, like valuable. So learn about past history of what has happened and what's gone on with, you know, banking and resources and also like investments. I think that's going to be part of the theme, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So then that moon's going to keep moving through Leo late into the evening. Then it's going to shift into Virgo as we come into Friday the 22nd. Not much is going to be happening this day. So Friday is kind of like nothing's really happening, which is both, I guess, good and bad. It's neutral. When we don't see a lot of aspects with the moon, it basically means that like things that we try to act upon in this day may not go according to plan, right? When the moon is in Virgo, we're focusing on communication. We're focusing on Mercury, and Mercury is just now coming out of a conjunction with the North Node in Chiron. The moon won't make any aspects to Mercury. In fact, the moon is in conjunct Aries for that 2 or 3 day period, so it's not getting any support. Perhaps maybe we're really feeling the effects on Friday of the Mercury shadow, because now Mercury is going through the degrees which it will retrograde back through. The only other thing that's going to be happening on Friday is that we will eventually see Mars change signs. So like the 21st, 22nd, Mars at 29 degrees, it's like nails on a chalkboard. You can definitely feel the intensity that's in the air. But as we get into the PM hours, Mars will move into Pisces. So that's going to be a pretty significant shift. That might mean that we're kind of feeling like, okay, you know, now we can kind of rest a little bit, or like now we can kind of slow down a little bit. And this is why I told you guys, yes, Aries season's going to start. Woo, it's the beginning of the year. But we still have Mars, Venus, and Saturn all kind of coming into conjunction in Pisces. It really won't be until the end of April, beginning of May that we start kind of feeling like things are picking up. So on one hand, we've got all these planets in Aries, which is like get up and go. But Mercury's getting ready to slow down, so it has to reassess. Well, it's reassessing what it can do based off of its emotions, its sleep pattern, its intuition, its feelings. So we're going to have to kind of just kind of take our time as we're getting to the end of the week, recognizing that there's going to be a need to turn inward. Now that moon's going to keep moving through Virgo. It's not going to make any aspects really until we get into the evening. And the only thing it's going to do is it's going to make a trine to Jupiter. So at the end of the day, we're like, okay, we've been productive. We got things done. Yes, we will see with that trine to Jupiter also in opposition to Venus and Saturn. So we might be feeling like, you know what, moon's in Virgo, you know, and it's Friday night. It's like, you know what, or Saturday night, excuse me. It's Saturday night. I'm not going to be Friday night, Saturday morning. I'm going to be healthy. You know, I'm not just going to sleep in. I'm not just going to drink. I'm not going to drug or party. Like when the moon's in Virgo, Thursday night and Saturday morning, we're really feeling like we want to stay on task, and we want to be productive, and we want to be healthy. So I could see Friday and Saturday as being like we're doing the weekend a little bit differently. Obviously, I scanned ahead a little bit here. So now we're in Saturday morning on the 23rd. So we wake up in the morning, the moon is coming into an opposition with Saturn and Venus. When the moon's in opposition to Saturn, we feel some kind of distance, some limitation, we feel blocked. And this is very kind of practical, you know, clean the house, fold your clothes, put things away, walk the dog. and feeling very like we can get a lot of stuff done on Saturday. But what we are staying away from is, you know, Venus, Saturn. It's like, we're not overly indulging. We're not on our phone all day. What Saturday would be such a great, like, no phone day with that, that moon that trines Jupiter and the opposition to Venus and Saturn. It's like, if you really want to spend time with a significant other or your kids or like a loved one, it would be like, okay, then put the phones away. Like, put something away so you're not distracted. Really take time to kind of like be super focused and have a little bit of downtime. Have a movie night or something like that on Saturday with someone. Spend Saturday getting as much stuff as you can getting done. If you have weekends off, clean your house, organize, prepare for the week, prep your food, whatever, and then chill Saturday night. And try to find new, healthier habits to be able to, have some free time. All right, so on Saturday, we're also going to see Venus come into a sextile with Jupiter. So that's nice as well. You're gonna actually, that looks like it's gonna be kind of happening over the evening hours. So let's take this ahead a little bit. So Venus hits 15, starts sextiling Jupiter. This is why I like this for like staying down, having like a cozy home or like, like movie night, dinner at home, something like that. And then the moon's going to start coming into an opposition with Neptune, and that'll be over the evening hours. And then this is going to take us into Sunday, the 24th. So when we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in Virgo. It is coming into an opposition with Neptune. It's been quincunx or in conjunct Aries. I always laugh when I see a bunch of planets in Aries and then like the moon in Virgo, because, Virgo is like, have a system, be organized, like take your time. Anybody who has like a lot of Virgo placements or sixth house placements, there is like a sequence of order of events. You guys are really kind of like systematic with stuff. And then Aries is just kind of like all over the place. I have an Aries moon. My husband's got a sun Mercury in the sixth house. And I think about how I just go into the kitchen and I'm all over the place. And I just put stuff back and I like make a mess and then like have to clean up. And I don't always clean up as I go. So I just continue to keep making a mess. And then I'll clean everything after I've spilled it and left everything kind of like on counters. And he'll come in and he'll just like look around like, what are you doing? It's like very, very Aries Virgo, And so all this Aries wants to get going with something, I guess, is kind of what I see on Saturday and Sunday. But that moon in Virgo is quincunx all of it. It's agitated. It's like, what are you doing? You're making a mess. You're rushing through things. You're not considering other people. And I feel like it can be kind of agitating, especially with Mercury coming into shadow, and the moon is very much reflective of Mercury. Where we have a tendency to overlook other people because we're so self-consumed or we're so ingrained in our own patterns or in our own habits, right? So that moon's going to keep going through Virgo until it gets to about midday. And we will see it move into Libra. And that's going to be around the early PM hours on Sunday, the 24th. Now, guys, it will be very early in the morning on the 25th on Monday that we will be having the lunar eclipse in Libra. So by the time you're getting to like this, moon in Virgo, which is going to start around Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we are coming into that full moon. We're starting to feel the lunar eclipse. It is building. It's a south node eclipse, which represents purging, releasing, letting go. It is also a full moon, right? So it's a completion, and lunar eclipses are very emotional. We're closing up chapters that are big emotional turning points, ruled by Venus, and Venus has been hovering in conjunction with Saturn. So there's a lot of karmic storylines playing out in relationships. There's a lot of loving and letting go, or releasing and losing. There's a lot of reminiscing and looking at photos and pictures and old times. By the time I come back next week and we talk on Sunday, it'll make sense, a lot of the stuff that I was kind of telling you guys. And so much about these eclipses, because they come in pairs, is like this really dramatic ending with the lunar eclipse in Libra on the 25th. And then that whole like reorganization and reassessment that will then happen, at the beginning of April as we come into the solar eclipse in Aries. People end jobs, they move. I see people transition. Unfortunately, I hear a lot of clients that are like, yeah, I lost my dad or my grandma or my dog. eclipses are like windows of opportunity where souls can kind of come or go. So we definitely do see a significant shift where there's big changes that happen right around eclipse periods. And once we have that eclipse, we'll have 2 weeks in between before we get to the next one. So we'll be starting new intentions then. Ground your energy. Be mindful of how you communicate with other people. Be mindful of how sensitive and empathic and how much we may actually be absorbing out there. If you're feeling tired, rest. If you're agitated, take time to become aware of that so you're not kind of perpetuating that kind of frustration, agitation, because I think everybody's going to kind of be feeding off of it with each other this week. Okay? And that's this week in a nutshell. So with that being said, I just want to quickly take you guys through the 12 rising signs. I want to show you where Mars is moving through. Keep in mind, it still has a really strong connection to the North Node in Aries, so it'll be just the next house over. So you're kind of visioning, imagining, or kind of breaking something down, dissolving something before you get into these new intentions when Mars goes into Aries. Now, I'm a Western astrologer, so I do not practice Vedic astrology. I practice Western astrology. That's what I like to practice. And I am going to be doing this for the 12 rising signs. I'm going to be using the whole sign method. I think it works because we're going to have the ingress, which means basically Mars will be entering 0 degrees of Pisces. So it will go from 0 degrees of Pisces to 29 degrees of Pisces, and that's going to be between March 22nd and April 30th. So Mars is going to be about kind of taking action, making some moves in this area of your chart. If you're an Aries or a Scorpio rising, Mars is your ruling planet. Unless you're Scorpio, you have 2. But you have to know where Mars is, so it will impact you a little bit more strongly. Also, my Pisces risings, you guys will be feeling this as well because Mars will be ingressing into your sign. Okay? All right, cool. Yes, you can listen to your Placidus chart if you want. Might be a different rising sign. You can listen to your progress chart if you want as well. I've heard a lot of people ask me those questions. Okay, so Aries and Aries rising. Obviously, Mars rules your chart. Mars is hanging out 12th house to your sun. For you, this is about spirituality and the unconscious. So during this transit over the next few weeks, you will experience a heightened sense of intuition and a greater focus on exploring your spiritual side and connecting with your inner self. 12th house is places like temples, churches, spiritual centers, retreat centers, spas, anything where you feel like you can kind of have your own little private space where you can be doing some healing, some visioning, some resting. That's basically where you're going to want to be during this particular time, okay? Good luck, my Aries. We have we have Taurus and Taurus rising, and we'll skip ahead to Pisces. Taurus rising, you guys are going to be experiencing Mars's transit through your natal 11th house. Obviously, Mars has connections to your 12th and your 7th. So for you, Taurus, this is about Mars moving through the area of your chart that deals with friendships and community. So Mars moving through the 11th house will bring increased empathy and compassion for other people, as well as a greater focus on building strong connections within your community. Pretty busy social, schedule can be happening here. There can be a sense also of who you're partnering with because of Mars's connection to your 7th house. And doing some kind of work with groups of people behind the scenes. So it could mean you're meeting with a church group, or you're going to a meditation class, or your partner says, hey, come out to have dinner with me and my friends. These are the kinds of things that you'll see with this transit. Good luck. We have Gemini and Gemini rising. You'll be experiencing Mars's transit through the sign of Pisces in your natal 10th house. For you, my Geminis, this is going through your house of career and public image. So this transit may bring increased sensitivity to your career and your reputation, as well as a greater focus on pursuing a career that aligns with your values and your passions. Certainly, Mars going through your 10th house is very busy. There can be a lot of competition at work. There can be a lot of work to get done. And Mars has connections to groups and other people, as well as your goals and coworkers. So it almost seems as if you're like directing a team, managing a team, working with a group of people, talking about what you're passionate about. If you're seeking employment, you're really getting out there and trying your best to find something, and maybe mixing and mingling with new people, or even new companies that you're considering kind of getting into work with. But this is a very, very, very busy time when it comes to your career. And I would say there can be a need to really be focusing on either team building exercises or, making changes or commitments to getting something done at work. Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You will be experiencing Mars's transit through the sign of Pisces in your natal 9th house. This is taking place in a fellow sister water sign, so it may be trining your sun, moon, or ascendant as a Cancer, which is very positive, very harmonious. It may give you a little bit of a boost when it comes to activity or energy levels. The 9th house is about travel and higher learning. So Mars and Pisces in the 9th house can bring increased intuition and a greater focus of exploring new ideas and expanding your worldview. Mars has connections to your 10th house of career as well as your 5th house of creativity. So it may be that you're doing some training. It may be that you're meeting with a teacher, a mentor, considering getting a certification relating to your career. Maybe you are thinking about going back to school. Maybe this involves traveling for like a holiday because of the connection to your 5th house and your 9th house, and that you're like, okay, before I get back into work, I want to, go out on a trip, or I want to kind of get some time off to enjoy myself. So it's possible that might be something that you're doing with this transit as well. This is a house also that deals with like your faith and your beliefs, so it can mean that you're more active when it comes to this type of work. Good luck, Cancer. We have Leo and Leo rising. You'll be experiencing Mars's ingress into the sign of Pisces in your natal 8th house. For you, my Leos, this is a house of transformation and intimacy. The good news is that Mars does very well in the 8th house. It likes to be there. It's really passionate. It's very sensual when it's in this house. This is also, heighten your sense of awareness and emotional or spiritual needs, and it does put a greater focus on deepening intimate connections with other people. Transformation, healing trauma, working through fear, but also gains of resources from other people can happen here. Mars rules your 4th house, which deals with home and family or emotional needs, and also the 9th house, which is about travel, law, and legality. It's possible that some of you guys are considering transforming your home, transforming something about your family dynamic, or trying to kind of bring in more resources or having access to other people's resources to be able to expand something about your beliefs when it comes to home and family. So it's a really busy transit for you guys, and I really feel like this is a time where there can be lots of conversations being had about taxes, insurance, other people's money, because that's what the 8th house is about. Good luck. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You'll be experiencing Mars entering into Pisces in your natal 7th house of relationships. For you, Virgo, this is where, the 7th house can bring increased sensitivity and empathy in relationships, as well as a greater focus on creating meaningful connections with other people. Mars has connections to your 3rd house of communication, siblings, travel, and learning, and also your 8th house of vulnerability, joint resources, sensitivity, and transformation. It looks like you're learning to have more sensitive kind of conversations about your inner world and practicing vulnerability in relationships. This can be with a romantic relationship or maybe even with a therapist. Maybe it's like a shift where you're just learning how to kind of open up more and talk about your fears so you can grow in regards to a relationship to another person. Obviously, there's a lot of planets that are in the opposite sign of yours, and I do feel like that it doesn't matter if you're in a relationship or not. There's definitely a lot of learning about where it does make sense to work with people who are encouraging you and trying to help you in some way, especially when it comes to healing vulnerabilities or learning how to kind of better express yourself with this upcoming retrograde in your 8th. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You'll be experiencing Mars's transit into Pisces in your natal 6th house. For you, Libra, this is all about health and your daily routine. This can also be about service. And this transit brings increased sensitivity to your physical and emotional health, as well as a greater focus on serving others and making a positive impact on the world. The good news is that Mars likes being in the 6th house. It wants to have some kind of purpose that it wants to serve. It wants to work hard and give to other people. Mars has connections to your 2nd house of money, resources, and self-esteem or support. And it has connections to your 7th house, which deals with relationships, partnerships, allies, counselors, and therapists. So it's almost like you're more willing now to pay for help from the right kind of specialist, right? So if you're wanting to go and see like a specialized dietitian, or you're wanting to go and finally work with a trainer, or, you know, maybe you're saying, well, it's expensive, but I really want to join this spa or join this, you know, particular health club. You're more willing to spring on that right now with Mars moving into your 6th house. This is also going to give you like the cleaning and organizational bug. So if you have been feeling like it has not been the right time to do some spring cleaning, some organization, you will most likely be feeling like you want to do that. Equally, the 6th house deals with your coworkers or your office space or your help. So it can be a time when you're employing people, or you're hiring a personal assistant, or you're bringing somebody in, because of Mars's connection to your 7th house. But it may also mean that you're feeling like you're receiving support from a partner, a spouse, a romantic partner who's kind of helping you when it comes to your health or your fitness goals. That can be definitely something that I see picking up for you, Libra. Good luck. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You'll be experiencing Mars's transit through Pisces in your natal 5th house. And Mars is one of your rulers. It's your traditional ruler. So wherever Mars goes is where you are. Mars will be in the 5th house, which deals with creativity, children, self-expression, and falling in love. So for Scorpio and Scorpio risings, I'm really loving this transit for you, especially because Venus, your 7th house ruler, is going to be in the 5th house as well. So I see Mars in the 5th house as a time for heightened creativity and a greater focus on pursuing pleasure and personal fulfillment. 5th house can be about taking chances, gambling, creative projects, and things that can be athletic or a little competitive, because that's what Mars is about. So when I think about Mars's connection, not just to your 1st house, but also to your 6th, perhaps there's a hobby that you're taking on, be that creative, or it could be something physical, that you're wanting to kind of work more so into your daily routine. You're like, I want to make more time for my art practice, my dance class. I want to make more time for my business. I really want to see it become successful. I really want to see it grow. It can also be a time where you're really focusing on creating more time to just play, to date, to spend time with your children. And it does kind of require you, because of the conjunction with your 6th house energy, of reassessing your schedule or moving things around so you can have more time for things that make you happy, or more time for playtime, or for creativity or dating. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting here. So all of the 12 signs will see this, because, you know, during the eclipses, the eclipses will feature planets conjunct Saturn. So the house that I'm talking about where Mars and Venus is, for all of you guys, you know, this is kind of like an area that's going to keep coming up through this eclipse season. Certainly, I think, Mars coming into contact with Saturn is going to be easier for, Aries and Scorpio risings to do, because that's the faster moving planet. It might mean that you finally break through barriers. So if you have felt like you've been dating and not meeting anybody and you've been stuck, Mars meeting Saturn means you might break through that. It could also mean that, you are, potentially doing something that's like more, competitive and creative, and you're more predisposed also to kind of having an injury, right? So be mindful, be careful, and watch the competitiveness while having fun, but look forward to lots of opportunities for, Cupid to kind of strike, and lots of opportunities for romance and intimacy. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You'll be experiencing Mars entering into Pisces in your natal 4th house. For you, Sagittarius, this is all about home and family, and well, get yourself a to-do list, right? Make a whole list of things that you got to do around the house. That's what I advise you, because Mars moving into the 4th house can bring increased sensitivity to family dynamics and a greater focus on creating or nurturing a supportive home environment, because that's what Pisces is about. But Mars deals with your subconscious. Mars also deals for you with creativity, lovers, or children. The positive of this transit is if you want to get creative with your home space, if you're wanting to rearrange the lighting or redecorate the space or add new art or whatever, you're intuitively going to kind of do that, right? That's the good thing. The challenging thing is that you're going to see Mars hitting Saturn and also Neptune. I could see a lot of Sagittarius risings where there's lots of really heavy emotions coming through in regards to home and family matters. Some challenges also with like hot water or sinks or pipes or plumbing. We can also see some challenges that are coming up in regards to, yeah, like leaks. You know, I have Saturn and Neptune in my 4th house. And so I think about when Mars goes through there, without fail, every single time it's like, oh, the dishwasher's leaking. You know, it's like, oh, there's a leak under the sink. So it's like now when I see the transit coming in, I wait for it and I'm like, okay, where's it going to hit? So obviously I'm not hoping that happens for you, but I'm letting you know, just be on the lookout, keep an eye on some of this stuff. And if it's not water, it's waterworks that can come up. But the key here is to find creative ways or to be working with art or, you know, doing something that's a hobby to kind of help you move through some of these heavy moods that might be coming up. And it can be something also where you feel very inspired or something that comes in that's like very creative for you. Home moves, changes with family, you know, people kind of causing a ruckus at home, whether it's relatives or roommates, can also happen with Mars in this house. So it's important to kind of stay active and I'm not going to say be preoccupied, but have other things that you're doing so you're not as kind of likely to kind of have some friction. Be a wonderful time to be like working out at home or, you know, like restructuring or refurbishing something to kind of use this energy. Okay. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Mars's transit through the sign of Pisces in your natal 3rd house. For you, Capricorn, this is about communication and learning, okay? So when Mars goes into the 3rd house, it brings increased intuition and a greater focus on creative writing or artistic pursuits. Equally, because Mars has connections to your 4th house of home and it also has connections to your 11th house of goals. Those of you guys who have been wanting to move, sell a house, reorganize your space, change neighborhoods, change cars, make a shift in regards to how you get around town, it looks like these are the things that are going to start happening for you, okay? Mars in the 3rd house also feels like there's a lot of busy work, running around more, having to make phone calls, emails, text messages, talking to or dealing with siblings. It could also be a time where, you know, you're feeling like you are having a limitation in transportation. I've seen some people go, my car broke down, I'm not ready to buy something yet, I'm taking a bike places. Or, you know what, I'm living in a place where I don't need a car, I'm getting used to the city, I'm walking around more. Mars in the 3rd house, really great way to blow off steam, like to get on, you know, get on the phone and like have a conversation while you're on the treadmill. The time will pass very quickly. If you're walking, that might be something that helps you guys. But lots of reassessments in how you think about or manage kind of home or getting to know a new space. Or if you are learning something new, like a language or a skill or a hobby, you'll pick it up very quickly, right? Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You'll be experiencing Mars transit in Pisces through your natal 2nd house. And the 2nd house deals with personal finances and values. Mars in the 2nd house, definitely time to hide the credit card, put it away. You might be feeling like cash is kind of burning a hole in your pocket. Although we have Venus and Saturn in conjunction as well. So it does seem like you're willing to spring for something nice. If you feel like, oh, I've been really waiting to buy this thing, or I've been saving for this thing, or, you know, I know that it's good quality, it's going to last forever. In those situations, sure. But it's kind of some wonky energy because Mars wants to spend, Saturn wants to hold back, Venus wants to indulge, Neptune's like, I spent how much at the bar? So there can be a sense of, yeah, kind of feeling like money's all over the place. But during this transit, you feel more inclined to pursue, creative endeavors and also reassess your financial priorities. Mars deals with business and your career and reputation. It also deals with communication and contracts. So it looks like the words kind of coming in, hey, more money might be on the horizon. Something's coming in. There's an opportunity to make more. Just because I'm making more doesn't mean I'm necessarily spending it. What am I doing with it? What's the plan? And it looks like a lot of that is being kind of worked out or reassessed in the following next couple of weeks during eclipses and retrogrades. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. That's my advice. Focus on what you physically have right now. And just because something might actually improve or something may be coming in, it's important to kind of still stay a little conservative with Venus and Saturn in your second house. You will see as we get closer to the eclipses, there is going to be some changes going on at the beginning of April where there may have to be some concessions or something that you're willing to pay for or something that you're willing to give up. That is very possible. All right, so now we move to Pisces and Pisces rising. This is Pisces. This is Mars in your sign. It's in your first house. So as Mars moves into your first house, it's going to have you feeling quite action-oriented. Mars is very strong in the first house. It has this get up and go type of energy. Obviously, I know you've got a number of other planets in your first house, but I do feel like this is really positive for bringing increased sensitivity and a greater focus on self-expression and your own personal growth. Now, Mars has to do with your personal resources, but also your self-esteem. So there is this yes, I can attitude, right? You just keep chugging along, reminding yourself, I'm worthy, I'm capable, I'm abundant. You have to kind of stay in that vibration. Mars also has connections to your ninth house of faith, philosophy, and your beliefs systems. So it's a lot of, this is where I'm going. This is what I believe in, like being led by faith when it comes to how you look at your financial independence, your self-sustainability, your capability. These are all things that are going to be coming up. And you'll see Mars get closer and closer to Saturn around the beginning of April. And that definitely could be a time where it's like, maybe then you become aware of where your boundaries are, if you have potentially pushed it too much, or if you're getting to a point where you have to cut someone or something off. But for now, Mars in your sign, pay attention to when you instinctively feel like, okay, it's time for me to make this move, or it's time for me to make this purchase, or time for me to make this investment. Putting yourself first is a huge theme with Saturn in your first house. And also with the stellium of planets moving through your second, learning how to reinvest in yourself and fill your own cup. That is the way forward. I hope this was really helpful for you guys in navigating this next week. It's like crazy how much stuff we've got going on. So I hope I kind of explained it well enough so you guys understand all of like the different kind of things that are kind of woven into this week's astrology. I'll be back. We'll be bringing you guys some videos on Tuesday and Thursday. We might have horoscopes coming soon, and I'm definitely working on a Mercury retrograde video because I think that's really important. If you guys haven't already checked out my eclipse videos, please do. I really recommend it. It's going to give you all the insight to how to navigate these two particular lunations and also how to see the Aries solar eclipse play out in the future. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I always love reading your guys' comments, especially all the people who chime in for the Sunday crew. I know a lot of you guys spend Sunday with me. It's great to be able to bring you guys this information. I really appreciate your support. You guys can support me by sharing my work, or if you'd like to join me for my live readings on Fridays. You can also consider picking up one of my astrology calendars on my website. We have personalized digital readings that go right into your Apple like iCloud or your digital calendars, so you can get your personal transits as they're happening on a daily basis. We have printed calendars as well, courses, and much, much more. So check all of that out at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. Until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Enjoy the next week, and I'll catch you back here on Tuesday. Take care.